Welcome to Vlogmas Day 2. I'm so excited about this video. Today I am going to be going through my reading list or read list of 2024. Not everything. I'm just going to pick a couple, like the really controversial ones, and give my opinion. Now, something I want to say up front. This is my opinion, okay? Live your life. Read what you want to read, you know? I think some of this is going to be controversial, so I apologize in advance. All right, we're going to start off strong with both Fourth Wing and Iron Flame. Got me through my winter depression last year. I would take my Kindle to the Planet Fitness and do a 12/330 while I read it. Not a lot of notes on this. Really loved it. It gave me like the same vibe as when I first read Hunger Games. Obviously a lot more mature and fun. And I like the spiciness in this book, particularly for a reason that we'll get into later when we get into some other books. But essentially I feel like it was really well earned. I didn't feel like it was the plot of the book. I thought the romance was very well paced. And I mean, Rebecca Yarros is someone who writes romance, you know, like she's a romance writer. Really love Rebecca Yarros. I also read The Last Letter. I think that's the only other one I read of hers this year. Really liked it. That one was like gut-wrenching, but so good. And more of a classic like Sparks vibe. But again, she's just like a very gifted writer, I think. I read Twisted Love, okay? Let's unpack that. So there's this thing happening in 2024 where there are these writers who are probably writing at like a Wattpad level, which is fine. I myself was a Wattpad writer, but they're getting these sales like crazy because the smut in it is like insane, and they're writing these male characters that are like completely unrealistic. And I understand, you know, I get it, okay? There were aspects of Twisted Love that I enjoyed, but I kept reading it because I thought it was like so fucking funny. This is a spoiler, but in the very end, when he like sings and shit, I had never laughed harder in my life. There was no character development other than this guy being like a creepy stalker. And then he has like the voice of an angel at the end, and then he's forgiven. Really strange, really weird. I could not get behind it. But it was kind of like a soap opera. So if you're into that and you're not really attached to like characters being rational, that might be the series for you. And no hate, she's to the writer, she's very successful. From Blood and Ash. Probably my favorite, one of my favorite books I read. That being said, I have not finished the second or the rest of the series, but From Blood and Ash came into my life when I needed it. It is the most delicious slow burn. There's a lot I could say, but I wish I could go back in time and read it for the first time. So well written, so easy to picture. It is so descriptive and like, I mean, not in a word vomit way. It's just like, God, you really feel like you're there. Like, I feel like I know what it smells like there. You know what I mean? Like I said, I've not read the rest of the series, which is not any hatred to, what's her name? Jennifer Armentrout. Like I said, it's probably my favorite book of the year. Absolutely loved it. I just ended up going down a different rabbit hole, and that's fine. But as far as like favorite male characters ever, that's probably my favorite male character ever. I think he's written so beautifully, so well done. And Poppy's great. I love Poppy. She's badass. Similar to like, I don't know, a lot of these women are badasses in these like more well-written fantasies, which I appreciate because I feel like that makes sense to me. In a lot of these like smut-filled romances, the women actually suck and they're like not kind of impressive at all, and that's like their whole character, which I do have an issue with, you know? It's neither here nor there. Now, this is the big kicker. This is what we all came here for. Haunting Adeline and Hunting Adeline. Here's what I'll say. I read these back to back when I listened to them when I drove down to see my niece in Panama City. So that's a 17-hour drive. Listen to one on the way there. I listened to one on the way back. As much as I enjoyed, I think what H.D. Carlton did was impressive, because I think she took a topic that not a lot of people are comfortable talking about, whether that be, you know, the actual sexual aspect of like terrifying domination or like the human trafficking side of it. I thought it was like really harrowing and kind of like trauma baity, but I didn't get that feeling as much as I was just appreciative of that having some context in modern media, because I feel like we talk about it a lot, we threaten it a lot, but no one ever really wants to talk about it like in detail. So I found that to be kind of impressive. That being said, a lot of the smut in it I skipped through. Not because it was like too crazy, you know, and I'm like this super vanilla bitch, but because I felt like the plot relied on it heavily. And to me, like a good smut scene in a book is like a movie. It's earned. You know what I mean? It's like fireworks after this tension or this whatever. I mean, of course there's the argument. I mean, there's lots of arguments, right? But there are certain books that I've found get to the point where it is the exact same thing as me like watching porn. You know what I mean? If that's your intention, which I think that's a lot of like people's intentions when they read these books, like they're doing it like with a vibrator in hand. You know what I mean? Not my intention, which is why I feel differently. I am also in a relationship where I don't watch porn, and I ask the same of my partner, and like that's something we mutually agreed on. So I don't think it's fair that I read it in that capacity either, when it's the same thing. And I think there's this huge argument, right, of like, no, like video porn is bad because of how it depicts women, blah, 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 blah. And all that is true. Sure. You know, I'm not anti-porn. I'm anti a lot of things about porn. But like I said, in my relationship, on both ends, we just don't do it. In that same vein, the way that men are depicted in these books is also completely not appropriate, because it sets this expectation of men to be able to go for 7 hours and, you know, throw us around like rag dolls, and also have 2 jobs and be millionaires and all this shit, which is super awesome in theory. But is it not the same thing as like portraying a woman who is able to, you know, be DP'd and come 20 times and shut up and keep going, and also has like a natural looking boob job and BBL and like a lethal face card? Moving right along. Those are my feelings. Appreciate the aspect of the plot. Not for me when I'm in a relationship, which I will be forever, you know, so that's fine. It's just not for me. The probably best hole that I found myself in this year was the Frida McFadden hole. I read every single Frida McFadden book this year. Every single one. Mostly listened to. I went through some really difficult times this year with my family, with my partner, just like life was lifing, you know, a lot of really hard times. And got me through a lot of my weeks was like knowing that I could listen to my book while I did all the shit in my house that I didn't feel like doing, like cleaning, taking care of everything. And it made it like a really enjoyable experience, and it gave me a lot of gratitude. And the thing about the Frida McFadden books is she's a fantastic writer, but her writing is, I think, purposefully kind of bare-boned to where you can sort of listen to it and at any point know where you're at. You know what I mean? Like an author like Mary Kubica, I have to be like sat fucking listening if I'm listening to one of her books, because we're jumping around. There's so many names. It's so intricate. Frida McFadden, like I said, is purposefully not that way, I think, so you are like intrigued to read it all in one night. And the twists are like, I am a filmmaker. You know, I'm a filmmaker who is primarily into psychological thrillers and horror, and that is what I make. And every single time the twist would get me, even if I was like, oh, it's over, you know. And she did something that I think is ballsy in every single one of her books for the most part, where there would be a twist and then you'd be like, okay, that was the twist, and then like 2 pages before the end there's another one. You know what I mean? I find her to be very impressive. If you're depressed and you need something to just listen to and kind of like hold on to, Frida McFadden. Okay, currently I'm reading the Crave series. There's a lot of controversy with the Crave series because I believe she technically stole it from someone or something. I don't know. I could be reading into the lore wrong. Crave 1, terrible. The worst Wattpad writing. Crave 2, which is Crush, devoured. 8, delicious. And I'm now on Covet, which is the 3rd. Here's what I'll say. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous in the way that Twisted Love is ridiculous. No, like, smut, which I appreciate. I appreciate more of, like, a tension and spice than a, like, pure, we went over this, you know what I mean? And there's that, like, there's romance, you know? But there's also some of the unrealistic expectations. I mean, starting with the fact that, like, I mean, I'm not going to get into it. That would take a lot of time. If you want a separate video for the Crave series, please let me know. I am enjoying that, however cringy the writing is, it is an intriguing world building strategy. She's doing a great job. And like, she gives just enough to make it believable. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy. It's bullshit. I think another thing that's impressive, baby, what is that? Do you not see it? That's the biggest fucking spider I've ever seen, Dilly. Oh my god. Dilly, what is that? Dude, that thing is as big as your hand. Was that not the biggest fucking spider?
It was pretty big.
I think that's where we're gonna stop. Because I'm feeling a little emotionally unwell after that. Anyways, thanks for tuning into Vlogmas. Sorry about the abrupt ending. I'm gonna go fucking... I mean, I am just in shock and bewilderment. Like, that thing had its own orbit. It literally looked fake. It looked like